sugar. Oh, honey, honey.
Hi, I'm Jen.
And I'm Jen.
And today we'll be making a simple but delicious sugar cookie recipe topped with royal icing.
This recipe is perfect for small family gatherings, party favors, or even to do your Christmas cookies with. Okay, so the equipment that you will need to make sugar cookies are a stand mixer, a spatula, a cookie cutter, an ungreased cookie sheet, and an oven. So the ingredients for our sugar cookies that we're going to make today are 1.5 cups of butter, unsalted, 5 cups of flour, 4 eggs, 2 cups of white sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So the first thing you need to do when you make sugar cookies is to add the butter and the sugar into the mixing bowl and let them cream until they become light and fluffy. That is the base of a good cookie, or actually any good cake too. You're going to start off at a slow speed just until it gets worked in together. So once your butter and sugar starts to collect on the sides, you're going to want to open up your mixer and scrape down the sides of the bowl. That ensures that all of the butter and sugar is going to get whipped evenly. So once your butter and sugar looks like this and it's really light and fluffy, you're going to start by adding in the 4 eggs one at a time, only one at a time until it becomes completely incorporated. After all the eggs are mixed in, you're going to want to add the 1 teaspoon of vanilla and let that mix in. So while that's mixing in, I'm going to add my baking soda and my salt to the flour. And now that everything is incorporated in, I'm going to slowly add in the batter at the lowest speed. If you turn it up any higher, the flour is going to go everywhere and make a huge mess. So we're slowly adding the flour in, letting it go into the rest of the mixture. So once your dough has come together, what you're going to do is you're going to take it out of the mixing bowl. You're going to scoop it into a bowl. You're going to cover it with saran wrap. And you're going to put it in the fridge to chill for a minimum of an hour and a maximum overnight.
So for our sugar cookies today, we're going to make royal icing. And for that, you're going to need your stand mixer, a whisk, and a mixing bowl. For this recipe, you're going to need 2 kinds of icing. One is a thicker icing for piping, and one is a thinner icing for flooding. First, we're going to make the flooding icing. The ingredients that you're going to need for the flooding icing are 3 cups of confectioner's or icing sugar, 2 large egg whites, and 2 teaspoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice. So what we're going to do first is add our 2 teaspoons of lemon juice to the egg whites, and then take your whisk and just start loosening up the egg whites. So now that our egg whites are nice and frothy, we're going to add them to our mixer. I'm going to start the mixer on low speed and slowly add the icing sugar. You may not need the entire 3 cups, so that's why you want to add it gradually. So now our icing is thickened up nicely. As you can see, I haven't added the entire 3 cups, so don't add it all at once. Our flooding icing is done. It's thin, but not too watery. Now for the piping icing. We're going to take 1 teaspoon of fresh lemon juice, 1 large egg white, and maximum 2 cups of icing sugar. We're going to do the same thing, add the lemon juice to the egg whites, and whip until they're just frothy. Now that our egg whites are frothy again, we're going to add them to the mixer, just like last time. And start the mixer on low. And as before, we're going to slowly add the conventional sugar. So as you can see, this icing is a lot thicker. It's perfect for outlining our cookies. Now, with our 2 icings ready, we're ready to color the icing and pipe our cookies. So to color the icings, you're going to need toothpicks, and today we're using these gel colorings. They don't thin out the icing as much, so they're perfect for this. You only need to use a very small amount because they're very concentrated. So just use your toothpick and dab it in, and then slowly just add color to your icing. I'm going to use yellow for my piping icing and pink for the flooding. So I just have a little bit in here and mixing it around. As you can see, it's already starting to change color with a very small amount of the coloring. And then I'm going to use the pink to do the flooding icing. And there you have it, we're ready to pipe the cookies. So before we roll out our cookies, we're going to preheat the oven to 400 degrees.
So now that we've let our dough rest for 24 hours, we're going to take it out of the fridge. And you're going to want to take a smaller portion of your dough so that it becomes easier for you to roll out. And you're going to need a rolling pin and some all-purpose flour for dusting the table so that it doesn't stick to the rolling pin or to the table. So we're going to start by dusting the table just a little bit. And then dusting the top of your dough after you put it down on the flour. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of flour and put it on the rolling pin. And then we're just going to roll it out. You want to make sure that after you do it for a couple times, you're going to want to move it around so that it gets covered in the flour again. So you're going to want to roll it out so that it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. So this is perfect. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cookie cutter and I'm going to just put a little bit of flour in it just so that when we cut out our cookies that it doesn't stick to the cutter. And then we're just going to cut however many shapes you can get out. So now that we're done cutting them out, we're going to put them on the baking sheet. And luckily for sugar cookies, they don't grow out like most cookies, and they just grow up a tiny, tiny bit. So you don't really need to worry about spacing. Okay, so now that they're all on the tray, we're going to put them in the oven for 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how thin your cookies are. So about 3 minutes through, you're going to want to turn your cookies so that they cook evenly all the way through. So after about 7 minutes of them being in the oven, our cookies are ready. So we're just going to take them out, and this is what they should look like, just a little bit brown on the top.
Okay, so now that the cookies have cooled, it's time to pipe them. I've put my piping icing into this small piping bag fit with a very small tip. Place the cookie in your hand and carefully pipe an outline all the way around in one smooth motion. Like this. Alright, so I've let the cookies sit for about 2 minutes so that the icing around the edges hardens. Meanwhile, I put the flooding icing, which I've dyed pink, into the piping bag, and I set it in a bowl just so that it doesn't leak out the bottom. So carefully just take the piping bag and one of your cookies and just start filling in all of the edges. You can use the tip of the piping bag to sort of push the icing around into all the corners, making sure that you don't overfill it. Alright, now we're going to set them down and let them completely harden. So this is what our beautiful finished product looks like. Delicious sugar cookies ready to eat. Thanks for watching and happy entertaining.